Hi, this is Snaily Snail. So today I thought I would share with you some of the financial mistakes that I have made in my life. I am still pretty young, so they're not going to be too many, but I hope you're able to learn from this video and not make the same mistakes that I did. I'm going to go in the order of largest to probably like smallest or break even. So my largest financial mistake was probably just attending a private four-year university instead of considering going to a public one. So this public university actually would have given me $30,000 at the end of my 4 years, and like now that I'm thinking back, I'm like, oh my god, $30,000 would have been a really great buffer to have when I'm like just starting my adulthood, I'm looking for a place to live, or if I needed money for, utilities or just like little things, because I think $30,000 would have given me so many opportunities in terms of like places that I could have gone to find another job. Because right after college, I ended up having to limit myself to the places that I could accept offers from. That was probably my largest financial mistake because I ended up losing 30 grand instead of gaining 30 grand. My next learning lesson is probably just eating out all the time. When Whaley Whale and I started dating, we went to eat out all the time. Sometimes they weren't really expensive places, sometimes they were. So one of the places that we went to was Five Napkin, and I think they closed down around like 2016, 2017. But it was this really expensive burger place in Prudential, and they would serve $40, $50 burgers. Oh, it wasn't even good. So at the end of the month, when we got our credit card statements, it was like 5 grand a month that we would spend on eating, because to just like paint the picture, we would go to our dining hall for breakfast, and then for lunch we would go into Boston or Waltham, and then after that we would have bubble tea, and then after bubble tea we had dinner, and then even after dinner we'd have another bubble tea. So it really adds up really quickly. The thing that hurts me the most was that we both paid for our dining plan that we didn't really use, and then we would eat out multiple times a day. So that adds up. And then we also had access to a kitchen that we never used. So that was just like, oh. To be honest, this period did not last for too long. We quickly realized how irresponsible we were being because we also did not have any income coming in. But it still hurts because that's like 15 to 20 grand that we're never going to see again. So now we only eat out maybe 3 times a week. My next learning lesson was when I realized I didn't do enough due diligence when we were hiring contractors. So when we first bought this place, we wanted to renovate some of it, and then what ended up happening was this man charged us 10 grand for basically paint. A bucket of paint probably cost like $50, and he bought 3 buckets of paint. And then I ended up paying 10 grand for this. Yeah, it was so not worth it, because even then, like, the paint job that they did was not perfect. I totally should have just painted this place by myself, because it's like, what, $150 for 3 paint cans? And then, some time, and then you also have to spend on the paint brushes, of course. But I probably would have saved at least like 6 grand. The next guy that we hired was so much better. He sent pictures every single day saying like, this is what I did. And he also broke down the charges for us, so it was very clear what he was spending all the money on. But I think going forward, I am just going to buy a turnkey place because I don't want to have to deal with renovations anymore. So the next financial mistake that I made, it was my senior year of high school. And I had set a New Year's resolution where I was going to get a gold card from Starbucks. I think they've changed their reward policy now, but back then it was, you have to make, I don't know, like 250 stars. It was the worst New Year's resolution that I've ever had, because I don't even drink coffee. I actually have to sleep off the coffee if I do drink it, because like my body feels so sluggish and I can't do anything after drinking coffee. So I would go into Starbucks after school or before school or whatever, and I would buy 2 venti vanilla frappuccinos. If you know what goes into a frappuccino, it's basically all sugar. Oh, I just wince every single time I think about all the sugar that I put into my body, because yeah, that was definitely not healthy. And I also had to spend money to get there. So I actually got my gold card within a month, and I had spent, yeah, like $250. And the last financial mistake that I'm going to share is when I invested in penny stocks. So I thought I was, doing great things. I was just like buying shares and stuff. This was when I first opened my brokerage account. I had no idea what I was doing, but I had $1,000 and I was investing in all these companies that were like $4, $1, the cheapest stocks that I could find. And I thought that it was investing. No, it's not investing. It was more like gambling. I will say though, I did break even or even make money from it, but I think that it gave me this false sense of confidence that I knew what I was doing way too early on. And I'm just super thankful that I didn't end up losing all my money, because that is totally something that could happen. So there's this one guy that we know, his shares actually ended up being delisted because the stock fell so much that it no longer met the criteria of being listed on the New York Stock Exchange. And when I heard that story, it just like hurt me so much that like I didn't even know that could happen. I probably should have done a lot more research before going into investing, but now I know like where my mistakes are and I'm able to learn from those. So those were my financial mistakes. Let me know if you have any that you want to share. Looking back, most of my financial mistakes aren't too bad, because like, yeah, it would be nice to have 50 grand back, but it's not like $1 million that I could never make back. It's so much easier if you have all this experience of making these mistakes and learning from them way earlier than if I were to make these mistakes when I'm like 30, 40, because at that point, I think it's a lot harder to recoup the loss. I hope you learned something and you're not going to make the same mistakes I did. Thank you so much for hanging out with me, and I will see you next week. Bye! I only go to Starbucks to get like vanilla milk.